This is the Business Leadership Series Minute with your host, the best-selling author of Don't Buy a Duck and founder of MarketingStrategyHero.com, Derek Champagne.
I'm excited about our guest today, Oscar Trimboli. He is on a quest to create 100 million deep listeners in the world. That's awesome. Author, host of the Apple Award-winning podcast Deep Listening. He's a sought-after keynote speaker. He's passionate about using the gift of listening to bring positive change in homes. You talk about that despite the fact that 55% of our time is spent listening, it's a skill that only 2% of people really grasp, and that there's these astonishing costs of failing to do so, from miscommunication to job turnover to lost sales, and that if public speaking is a skill of the 20th century, that learning how to listen is an important skill in the 21st century. Can we talk about some of the levels of listening and apply it now to today?
The bigger the impact you have, the more of your day you spend listening. So the people in my research database, 1,400 people, the most senior ones of those have said that they can spend up to 80% of their day just listening, but none of them ever got taught what plus, divide, subtract, division is as it relates to listening. So the 5 levels of listening is a way to help us understand how do we code listening? How do we understand the code of listening? And it started with a story where Tracy, who was my vice president at Microsoft, we were in a very complex budget negotiation between Seattle, Sydney, and Singapore over video conference in about March of 2012. And at the 20-minute mark, Tracy looked across me in the room and said, "Oscar, we need to talk after this meeting." And I always remember it was the 20-minute mark because she reminded me of it later. And for the rest of that 90-minute meeting, all I could think about is how many weeks' salary have I got in my bank account? So I'm surely going to get fired, because when the vice president said we need to talk after this meeting, that's not a good thing. The meeting concluded actually a little bit early, and what happened at the 20-minute mark probably contributed to that. And Tracy took me aside at the end of the meeting, and I sat down, and I'm just counting, I think it's 4 weeks of salary. And she said, at the 20-minute mark, I want to talk to you about the 20-minute mark. And I said, sure, Tracy, yeah. She said, you have no idea, but you completely changed the direction of the meeting by the way you were listening. If you could code that, you could change the world. And wow. The only thing was in my head at the time, because all I was worried about was my bank account, and I was waiting for her to say you're fired after that. And all I could get out of my mouth was, "Tracy, do you mean code or code?" And she looked at me quizzically, and she just said, "Code." Now, when you're at Microsoft, that means write this into software. And eventually that journey will take place where the kind of listening skills that we talk about today in the 5 levels of listening came out of that moment where Tracy could see something in me. And this skill, it wasn't a skill about oration, it wasn't a skill about being a really persuasive speaker. It was just the capability to draw the group just to listen to themselves a little bit more, and in a different way.
Derek Champagne here. I want to connect with you if you're listening to the Business Leadership Series. We can connect on LinkedIn or send me a message at derek@derekchampagne.com. I look forward to connecting.